everybody, and a very warm welcome to today's online learning. It's lovely to have you here. We're going to have some fun this Friday as we look into advancing our advocacy and devising what I think might be the first ever library elevator pitch. So to get the technical side of things out of the way as quickly as possible and on to the good stuff, I'll introduce myself. My name's Kirsten. I'm Membership Officer for CILIPS Scotland, also joined by my fantastic colleagues Sean and Leah. So if you need anything throughout, please don't hesitate to send us a message in the chat. As you can see, we're recording the presentation part of today, but once we get into the workshop, we really want you to feel free to share your ideas. So the recording will be popped off at that stage. So it's entirely up to you whether you keep your cameras on or off. Captions, we will be enabling captions. Let me just reach up and do, there we are. Captions are now enabled, so you should see them scrolling along the bottom of your screen, and you can toggle these on or off depending on your preference just by using the toolbar at the bottom of Zoom. And with that, let's get into advancing our advocacy. So you can see here that for the elevator pitch, we're going to begin on the ground floor about what exactly is an elevator pitch, why do libraries need one? And then moving up to the first floor, we're going to delve into some revealing top tips. You see what we did there? Reveal project hopefully is not news to many of you. A fantastic piece of work by Dr. David McMenemy, supported by the CILIPS Research Fund, and we will be gathering some of the learning from Reveal to inform our advocacy today. We will then get started. We will have a Menti moment to bring our suggestions together before streamlining and synthesising how we articulate why libraries are essential in as effective and efficient a way as possible. And then finally, we will ascend to the penthouse and prepare our pitch. So don't worry, it doesn't need to be kind of polished to perfection. That's what we're here for. But we want to make sure that we're bringing in voices from all across the sector, from all levels of experience, all different backgrounds, to make sure that our elevator pitch is as rich as it possibly can be. So let's get started. So I'm going to begin with a personal advocacy anecdote to really hopefully illuminate why this work matters. So as some of you know, I come from a small but perhaps quite serene little town called Burnside. It's a lovely place, wouldn't be anywhere else, but I think suffice to say, it's not quite a white knuckle ride of excitement all the time. And that is kind of embodied by the joke that I always make to people, that the welcome sign is sponsored by the local funeral directors. Now, people think I'm joking when I say that. So here we are, we're going to zoom in and you can see there it is. So Burnside, sponsored by Foster's Funeral Directors. Now, no shade whatsoever to a fantastic local business, but I think it does perhaps indicate that life can be quite genteel. It's not filled with excitement in Burnside usually. However, last autumn, there was a big by-election of which we were part. So this was for Rutherglen and Hamilton West. And you can see the kind of political chaos that surrounded this, very vividly illustrated by Alison Shields here for Holyrood. So our previous MP had become an independent, then there was a recall petition, and as the candidates were all kind of competing for votes, raising awareness of where they stood, I was approached by the chap in red. So you can see this was the Labour candidate, Michael Shanks. Now, this was the day before the by-election was even announced. He and his team were out canvassing and they knocked on my door. And I worry that they probably very quickly wish they hadn't, because of course I need no encouragement whatsoever to share why libraries matter so much, why they are so essential. What was really interesting was that Michael's own background was as a secondary school teacher. So immediately he understood the importance and the value of school librarians, and we were able to have what felt like a really rewarding conversation about why we need to advocate on behalf of our sector. Of course, you can be sceptical in these kind of situations. I thought, will anything come of this? But fortunately, it did. So first of all, Michael was indeed elected as our local MP. You can see him here taking his oath with his Labour red notebook. And very shortly after, received a letter that he had put me in touch with the wonderful Pam Duncan-Glancy, MSP. So Pam is the Scottish Labour spokesperson on education and skills. So this was, again, growing from that initial conversation. It was a great connection for us to make here at CILIPS. We had a really rewarding meeting with Pam during Libraries Week, perfectly timed. And the eventual outcome of that is that we will be attending the Scottish Parliament before the year is out to have a stall in Parliament. So you can see here examples from Colouring the Nation and Listen Well Scotland. There will be a CILIPS stall. So incidentally, we would love to hear from you about what you would like us to feature. But really, this was quite a tangible advocacy outcome that came from that initial conversation. So it really epitomised for me the value of being able to get in as quickly and effectively as possible why libraries matter. And that is the kind of essence of what we are going to be working on today. As I've highlighted here, I think this is a key year in which to do it. So that by-election took place late last year, but in 2024 overall, more people will go to the polls around the world than ever before in history. And of course, following the news in recent days, maybe even a few more people attending a different election, who knows? But this is, I think it's a very powerful stat to reflect on, because I don't know about you, but I can certainly feel as if things are hugely out of control, that we're losing our autonomy, that things feel very frightening, very, it's hard to feel as if we are having that impact. But in fact, this should be the year of democracy, the year of the people, the year of our stories and our voices being heard. And needless to say, here at CILIPS, we want to make sure that libraries are a key part of that conversation. So how do we make the most convincing case? I'm going to turn to the Reveal Toolkit. As I say, hopefully this is not new to many of you. If you haven't yet checked out David McMenemy's fantastic literature review and video series, I highly, highly encourage you to do so. But there are 4 key concepts that I think are relevant to our advocacy quest today. So firstly, for making a convincing case, we need logos, we need a logical argument. I know this can provoke a bit of debate to what extent we use the language of facts and figures that decision makers often prefer, but there is no doubt that making a logical argument is very persuasive. And feeding into that is ethos. So that is an appeal to credibility. Now, of course, we try and do that as the professional association, but Leah, before we opened up the meeting, made the fantastic point that as a team of 3 representing 1,200 people, we cannot possibly have that credibility for all sectors. You, our attendees, are the experts in your roles, in the impacts. Nobody knows better than you and your service users the difference you make. So that is the spirit in which we're all coming together today to really maximise that ethos and credibility that we bring to our advocacy. Complementary to that is pathos. So that's a word that quite often comes up in everyday discourse, but it's all about inspiring empathy. And I think, I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that that informs our work in the sector overall. I know it's about hearts every bit as much as minds. And we also want to make sure that our advocacy communicates that effectively. And last but not least is kairos, so timing. So I've already mentioned that this feels like a key year for democracy, for democratic conversations, for getting libraries onto the political agenda. So kairos really is of the essence. And another aspect of time is that we very often don't have long in which to achieve this great mission of making sure that people understand the value of libraries. So to illustrate this, I've delved into a document called Why We Knock on Doors. It was a pamphlet published by Labour in 2019 for their canvassers in that election. I don't know if they realise this is open access, but I promise you it is. And it gave me some really interesting insights to the other side of the doorstep and the approach that they are bringing, all political canvassers are bringing to these conversations. So they're advised to think about how many conversations they can have within a 2-hour period. So much as we would love to think that they enjoy nothing more than us holding forth as long as we can, they are trying to rattle through the numbers. They're trying to speak to as many neighbours, as many residents as they can. So time is of the essence. They also remind their colleagues that this is a start, not the end of a conversation, and to pass casework on to councillors, MSPs, MPs as appropriate, as indeed we saw with the example of Michael Shanks passing our information on to Pam Duncan-Glancy. So I think this insight illustrates the fact that, yeah, we don't have long to make this case. So it's so important that our advocacy is as efficient and effective as possible. With that in mind, enter the elevator pitch. Now, some of you know that when I'm not CILIPSing, I am a writer, and writers get painfully used to elevator pitches. So you're very much encouraged to be able to encapsulate your book in a line or 2. Now, writers universally hate that, because if you could tell a story in 1 line, you wouldn't have taken 100,000 words to do it. However, back in the day of kind of dropping off your manuscript in person before it was into the email slush pile, You could find yourself in the lift with the head of a publishing house, and you have until that lift hits the floor to communicate what it's all about. So that is really the essence of an elevator pitch, and a similar approach applies when you're engaging with political canvassers at home, perhaps people visiting the library, any decision makers who are relevant to supporting you. We want to make sure that we can, as efficiently as possible, introduce ourselves, our work, and our advocacy arguments. So I've notionally put here that I think about a max 1 minute. It would depend, of course, on the speed of your lift, but there's no pressing the stop button allowed. I don't think that would go down very well with any decision makers. So we really want to be as efficient and effective as possible. Another example of this from my own life is the Scottish SPCA. So I am a volunteer with them, and you can see here, very much like libraries, the whole diverse array of activities that the SSPCA supports and engages with. So neutering animals, pet aid, which is animal food banks, animal guardians, so young people who are at risk of animal abuse are supported and inspired to change their behaviour, to learn empathy, to harness that pathos. The Assured Puppy Breeder Scheme to make sure that that puppy farms are a thing of the past, as well as microchipping, fostering, and of course, forever care, just like without which we wouldn't have the pets of CILIPS, Winnie and Shep. So very much like our own sector, that is no easy task to encompass that into one line. And certainly for us as volunteers, when we're out with our collecting cans and somebody asks, so what do? You don't want to be reeling off a whole list that is going to switch them off. They're going to have wandered away before you've got to the end of it. So the SSPCA have come up with just 6 words that encapsulate everything. Scotland's only all-animal emergency service. So it's easy to remember. You can see that it works, this is an Instagram graphic, so it works really well on social media as well. And it's if in doubt, we can turn to that to articulate the core of what we do. So I think it's high time that libraries had something similar. So for the rest of today, we are going to be working on the library elevator pitch. To do that, we are going to have a Menti moment. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen to bring up our Mentimeter. If you have a smartphone with you, you have full permission to be on your phone at this point. If you don't have access to the Menti, we'll have a QR code and the link. But if you don't have access to it, please do just make use of the chat, and our fantastic digital assistant, Leah, will be inputting into the Menti too. So give me one moment. I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that well. So you can see we've got our QR code in the bottom left. So what we'd like you to do is either use that QR code, get onto the Menti. You can see there's also the link menti.com, and you can enter that code, or indeed just use the meeting chat if that's easier. But we're going to take a few minutes. You have 25 characters, so not many at all. If I begin the sentence, librarians are, how are you going to finish that sentence? Just give it a few minutes for ideas to start coming in. Oh, trustworthy, excellent. Experts, fantastic. And you know that the way that this word cloud works is that the more people echo a concept, it will then becomes bigger and bigger. Oh, I love that. Essential, knowledgeable. Wow, a real knowledge, information literacy theme coming through. Valuable, fundamental. I like that. Really powerful, really realizing why we can't do without ourselves. Interesting. I think we'll definitely go back to that trustworthy. It gets back to ethos, doesn't it? It really gets back to credibility. Just give it another moment more. A return on investment. Very nice. So again, we're getting into the logos there, aren't we? The facts and figures, which we certainly have to do in our own letters to decision makers. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I cannot tell you how anxious I was this morning, everyone, that nobody would engage. So you're really making my morning. Supportive and superheroes, gorgeous. And you know what I love about superheroes as well? You'll have seen in our PR power-ups, you get great visuals with that as well. So when you're doing an advocacy campaign, we've already mentioned social media, superheroes is a great one to do. Social enablers, very, very powerful, valuable, resourceful, again, really capturing, oh, there's another supportive, interesting. I think supportive is a fantastic word that encapsulates it all. So you do have that pathos, you do have that heart, and then also supporting very tangible, logical things. Oh, this is wonderful. I'm so happy to see this word cloud taking shape. Thank you. Yeah, let's see. Are there any approachable? Yes, very important, that human to human connection. Empathetic again. So, wow, there's some really wonderful, wonderful keywords coming through. Steadfast. Wow, that's so powerful as well. Thank you, everybody. that was incredible. Oh, and what just facilitators? Ah, yeah, really interesting to make that point and actually make sure that, because I think our roles are the sort of thing that very often, if we do it perfectly, it's unseen. Nobody thinks about everything that goes on behind the scenes. They enter the library door, they go on the library website, they access the resources they need, and they think nothing more of it. So really articulating that facilitator point is so valuable and supportive, yeah, supportive and valuable, echoing really, really strong. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, Malibu as well. Yeah, we're fleet of foot. We're always able to try new things. And that is actually a really strong thread of our own advocacy, because we do, as a profession, we do embrace change. We've done it for decades and we're doing it now, whether it's AI, whether it's inclusion. We are dynamic and we want to be recognized for that. And librarians are leaders. This is absolutely wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much. Moving on to question 2. Oh, what was that? One last one. Let me find it. Inclusive, yes, very nice, absolutely. So we are those things because so we've said what we are. What do we do? How does that manifest? Because we care. Gorgeous, straight out the trap there. Love it. Yes, and it's not easy to do in just the 25 characters. Care, care, care. That's really interesting. And please don't worry if somebody uses a word that you've already taken, it does just echo it. It'll get bigger and bigger the more of us agree. We evolve. That's really powerful as well. We want to empower, we understand people. Wow, a really, really empathetic thread coming out here. Thank you, that's incredible. We can find information. Yes, we can. Again, we are that bridge. We get people the knowledge, the information that they need. We listen. That's so valuable as well. And we understand people. We impact lives. Libraries change lives. That is a fantastic campaign by CILIPS, which is taking place this very June. We adapt. I like that as well. Evolve, adapt. We can bridge the gap. Yeah, really, really powerful. We learn and develop. I love that because we do that as professionals ourselves. And then we also support other people to learn and develop. These are really, really interesting. Thank you, everybody. Just give it another moment, see any others coming through. But yeah, that impact is very apparent, and care. So I think it's not just, we don't just deliver, we care about what we're doing, that we are in it, heart and soul. We work with our communities. Yes, absolutely. Because you think of these political decision makers, sustainability is an example that we often use. The local authorities, they will have declared a climate emergency. They know that this work needs done. So we are the missing link. We are the ones that connect communities with climate action and with so much more. We are indispensable. I like that. Yes, we are essential. We are indispensable. Oh, we can shapeshift. Yeah, so there's this superhero thread running through everything. I love that. Yes, shapeshift. We evolve, we adapt. Really, really a dynamic impression of a profession, which I don't think always does come across, certainly not in media coverage. You know that I am fairly regularly complaining to Netflix about their depictions of librarians. Yeah, there's a far more nuanced understanding, which it takes, of course, the actual professionals to do. Fantastic, everybody. That's incredible. I see care and understand really, really coming through loud and clear there. So we stand for, what do we stand for? If you're asked in a word or two, what librarians stand for, what would you say? Equity, very nice, very important. And access, yeah. Information integrity, what a gorgeous phrase. Very much so. Yeah, access again, really powerful, and equity. So they're really echoing with people. Impartiality, yes, absolutely. And especially when we're talking about the political landscape, how polarized things have been, we stand for people. Yeah, we stand up for people, for their access, for their equity, for their information integrity. Really interested in how these three interact. We stand for communities. We stand for values. Yes, very much so. So many agendas, whether it's AI, whether it's other technological innovations. We are the ethical, we are the canaries in the mine. We are the ones that make ethics so central. We stand for literacy. We stand for social mobility, so critical. We stand for professionalism. I love that. And we stand for you. What a fantastic phrase. And again, when we're thinking about our audience, whoever they are, whoever we're talking to, libraries are there for them. Stand for social mobility. We stand for democracy itself, for people power. I love that. For people, for communities, for values. That is really, really exciting. Look at that. Yeah, literary and access and equity coming through so strongly. Fantastic. I'll just give it a few seconds, see if any more are coming in. We will save these as well, of course. So when we come to our final elevator pitch, these are all fantastic keywords that we're going to make use of, and we'll share these with you afterwards as well, because I certainly want to keep track of them. And last but certainly not least, this is a bit of an experiment, this question. We stand against. Now, generally speaking, I prefer for advocacy to always be positive. However, I think there are elements of our work that the radicalism of our work is not always appreciated. There are certain things that I can think that we are on the front line, we are fighting against. Be really interested to see, yes, disinformation, that was in my mind as well. Censorship, yeah, disinformation, and we stand against censorship. Yeah, again, back to those values, back to that information integrity, really, really important stuff coming through. As I say, this is something we can perhaps workshop and we can discuss further, but we stand against othering. Yeah, really important point, getting back to equity, back to inclusion. That's resonating with a lot of people, I think. Because what other space is there in society, especially these days, where everybody is welcome, everybody can belong and be side by side? We stand against no one. Yes, so another way of phrasing that othering point. We stand against closures and cuts. We certainly do. Was that one of the CILIPSers? I feel like that was one of the CILIPSers. We definitely stand against closures and cuts. Wow, that's really powerful. And I can see a number of people chiming in with the same term. So yeah, mis and disinformation, othering, and I think censorship comes into that discourse really, really powerfully as well. And of course, we have to stand against closures and cuts because we cannot deliver all the wonderful things that we just saw in the previous two questions if there are closures and cuts. Wow, that was just amazing, everybody. Oh, exclusion. Yeah, very much so. We stand against exclusion. We do indeed. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. As I say, I'm very, very relieved that you've come ready to engage and participate, because you can see how rich it becomes so quickly. These keywords that are communicating so much, which is what the elevator pitch is all about. I think I will stop sharing the Menti now and briefly go back to my slides. So for the rest of the time that's remaining to us in this hour, we are going to delve into a Padlet. So I will pause the recording. So everybody that's watching on the catch up, thanks for joining us. We will deliver you a polished to perfection library elevator pitch very shortly. But for everybody in the room, we're now going to spend some time workshopping the ideas, those keywords that you've articulated so fantastically with the Menti, to look at how our library elevator pitch actually takes shape. So we're going to first reflect on literacy and learning, on health and well-being, on mis and disinformation, which of course came up very strongly in the previous activity. And of course, wild cards are very much welcome as well. I can't possibly encapsulate everything that we do, much as I would like to, so we really want to hear your voices for that. So I'm going to stop the recording at this point. So everybody wave bye to our everybody watching and catch up.